Welcome to Real Talk, where we discuss real issues affecting real people. My name is Omobolanle Adesuyi. It's a Wednesday morning, the 16th day in the month of December 2020. Today, we'll be focusing on good parenting and the society. And of course, I have with me in the studio Peter Amo, author of How to Become a Better Father. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Okay, so what exactly is parenting?
Well, not to go by public dictionary or the cliche definition, parenting is catering for somebody who you are bringing up from one phase to the other, from a tender stage to the next stage, and then to the adult stage, and then at a point where you can say, go and live on your own. So that process of bringing somebody up from a tender age, maybe as far as 1 day old, taking him to the teenage stage, then to the youth stage, and to the adult stage, is parenting.
Okay, so let's now take you to good parenting. Okay. What exactly is
well,
that?
Good parenting is in the course of nurturing, in the course of rearing, in the course of bringing up, as we call it, you are able to pass down good legacies. So by the time it's time to let go, maybe by the virtue of marriage or independency, the person has learned something good and is able to live on that, build on it, and have a meaningful life. Then one would say he has been a good parent to, dependence.
So are there different kinds of parenting?
Well, because there are different kinds of human beings and because there are different kinds of personalities, we would have different styles of parenting.
Okay, so let's talk about them.
Okay. Parenting will mostly come from the personality, of the individual. So if the person is a very strict person, he's going to have a very strict parenting model. If the person is a very maybe empathy person, he's going to have a very considerable good parenting. If the person is all about performance, all about result, then the person is going to be what I would call the performing parent. Just want to checkmate every aspect of the child, just so that the child can turn out the way they want the child to turn out, not necessarily the way the child has been wired to turn out. That can be performance parenting. And then you have parents who are just passive, who are just there, put money on the table and then move on with their life. Or why even they are not putting money on the table, the children are finding their way themselves. So you have this kind of parenting based on the personality of the individuals and the upbringing of where they are coming from. It will affect the kind of parenting they will give.
Totally dependent on the temperament and personality
It's dependent on temperament, it's dependent on the personality, it depends on the exposure of the individual. For example, if you want to bring it down to the continent, you say Western parenting, you say African parenting. So exposure. And when someone crosses from the African environment to the Western environment, he tends to have some, changes change of mindset about some things he has learned, some things he's been doing, some things he wants to pass down.
So if you were to compare the African style of parenting to the Western world, which would you say is better? Because I know in the Western world, there are some things that are still permissible, but are not. Because if you see some videos and you see some children talking back at their parents, you see Nigerians in the comment section saying, you can't try this in Africa, you will receive some serious slap and all that. Which would you say is better?
Well, I would say that both sides have their good and bad.
Oh, okay.
That's what I would say. So you can pick the good of the African parent and you can pick the good of the Western parent or of the Asian parenting and put it together to form your own parenting style.
Okay, so let's talk about the role of parents in building a better society.
Yes. Well, if just the way you would like to break down something big into something small. So the smallest part of a society, comes down to, in form of group, comes down to the family. And when you talk about the family, you have to talk about the father, the mother, and the children. And it's from this family or from this home that anybody would interact with the society. So the kind of home we have at the minimum, at the barest level of the society will determine in the long run what our society will look like. So if our parenting or if our homes are not conducive, or are not bringing out, or are not churning out, the right kind of children, kids, even individuals, then the society at large will reflect otherwise.
Okay, so in your book, you seem to focus more on fathers.
Yes.
Why is that?
I focused on fathers because if you compare first of all, I was in a group session, or a group coaching session, and one of the things I realized in the course of that session was that men actually have issues. Yes.
Women don't?
No. It's not comparison. We are quick to fall into that class, and we don't end up really solving so much problems.
Okay, so why did you make that statement?
Yes.
Men have issues.
Yes, I'm going there. Now, if you compare the men in terms of the way men take care of their problems, if you compare who has a more support system, if you compare whose issue is discussed more in the light of solution, it's the woman, or is the vulnerable. But the reality is that in the long run, the man, or the manhood, is actually a victim of all this.
But that's against the narrative that we're in a patriarchal society.
Yes, this is it. We're in a patriarchal society. It doesn't mean that even the person at the top doesn't have issues. It's just like what we say, the rich also cries. So even the leader who is leading has his issues. But the difference is that he doesn't know who to turn to solve his problems. For a lady or for a woman, like, when you have a problem, you can easily call yourselves together, discuss about it. But the ego of man will want him to resolve it his own way. And that is part of the crisis we have in the home today. He's not able to resolve it in the real sense of it. He's not able to resolve it adequately. And so he has to channel it somewhere.
Is that why we have so many single mothers? Is that one of the reasons?
Well, no. There are many reasons why they are single mothers. For some, it's the fashion, it's a trend, and for some, it's an outcome of a breakup. So, if you are talking about outcome of a breakup, domestic violence, yes, it contributes to why we have increase in violence. Because, come to think about it today, we have so many programs for women. Yeah, it came as a result of the past events, the brutality and the violence that have happened. But man has taken the backseat now, and because of that, he will begin to develop frustrating mental whatever, and over time it has to express itself one way or the other. So if the home is where it's going to express it, unfortunately it's going to be on somebody, either the children or the mother. If it's at workplace where you have different kinds of boss and the rest of it, it's going to be the employee. If it's an employer, if it's a manager, it's going to be the subordinate. So the point at the end of the day, man will channel their issues somewhere. They may channel it on the wife, they may channel it on their employee, but they will channel it somewhere. So that's why I said men have issues, and the society is not paying attention to it. Rather, they are reacting to them, they are castrating them, they are jailing them. There's nothing wrong with that. But what about where it all started from? As a boy. Who is paying attention to that? Well, we have the girl child, quite all right. But do we have the boy child? If we do, can you compare the rates to the girl child?
The attention.
Yes. At the end of the day, the girl child you're spending money for, you're giving scholarship to, you're sending abroad, has to get married. If she doesn't want to be a single mom, has to get married. But who is going to get married to? You're assuming that the man will take care of himself, will have equal exposure. But the truth is that he's going to probably get married, some of them, to people who are less exposed to them. And that inferiority complex that we always talk about, that we think a man should be able to just handle it.
Men don't cry.
Men don't cry, will be there. And that may be the beginning of a crack. In some cases, it might be financial power.
But that notion or that statement, big men don't cry or men don't cry, how did we get to that point?
It's a myth which today makes man insensitive. The reality is that when, as a boy, for example, for example, when a girl is playing or misbehave, they'll tell the girl, is this how you behave when you get to your husband's house? But for the boy, they say boys will always be boys, meaning that an excuse, for them to continue their mischievous. So they are not corrected. So when they also fall down, because they tend to, they are portrayed to have a masculine stature that is untouchable, untouchable by many things, When such them, they tell you not to cry, but the idea is that the boy ought to cry, and while not crying, he is bottling it up. His bottling it up is affecting his other emotional parameters, and then that continues. Other things come up, and then we now have insensitive men. So it's a myth just to keep feeding the ego of man. It's a myth to keep feeding the masculinity of man, and it makes them less emotional in the long run.
As you said, it eventually trickles to the society.
Yes,
because
it does.
We then groom boys who are not made to see things in the reality of what they really are.
And are now affected by what is probably going on in the environment.
I'm going to bring the scenario of what happened with the Benue State governor intervening in a particular domestic violence that happened between Channel's reporter and his wife and all that. Doctor. What's your reaction to that particular story?
Well, I don't know the entire story, so I would not want to say maybe who is at fault, but the point is that if the man actually beat the woman, it was wrong. But
you saw the video.
I just saw the headline. She actually did the video talking about how he beat her because she tried to advise him on a particular issue. That's what I'm saying.
And they started bleeding on the face.
That's part of what I'm saying, because there's also this idea that you should not listen. There's this other that probably you shouldn't listen to the advice of your wife and things like that. But the truth is that women are natural prophets. Their intuitions and instincts are in many cases sharper than that of man. So some things they pick, they may not be able to explain, but like if my wife picks something and she tells me, I may not like the way she said it, quite all right, that may be the issue in their own case. But the truth is that she doesn't even know why she said it, but she just picked it and she told me, this is my own good, beyond the
but even in that situation, she made mention of the fact that wasn't the first time. It had been a recurring,
and because the man is coming from somewhere. It's something that has been formed in him. It's just time to express it. It's a defect. It's a defect that has been then long. It's not when they got married. It's long. It's just, for example, if a wife calls the husband, please come and do something in the kitchen, there will be this, first of all, cringing like,
it's not my role.
Also, or reaction or something before later probably thinks out of it and then go do it.
And how does this eventually rub off on the children?
It does. I'll give you a scenario. I was listening to a personality, and he said the wife asked the son to come do something in the kitchen, and then the guy said, no, it's not my, it's not that guys don't go to the kitchen or something. So because the person also works on parenting, so he said, okay, no problem. So what he did was just told the guy, tomorrow we are going to the market. So the guy thought this, as in the son thought it was for a joke, but when the eventually came.
But how old was the boy at that point?
He's a teenage. So
but before you got to that teenage,
yes, because before he got to them, what he realized as the father was that he was actually the one who made the mistake. That's why. So that was why he said that let's go to the market. Let's not have it word for word. Yes, let's not have it just in words. Let's have it practically, so that you can appreciate, what your mom goes through or what your sister goes through when they go to the market. So they both went to the market and they didn't come back, until evening. And unfortunately, it rained. So after that day, it was a different story. And I that's it. Beyond sitting a son down, a boy down to talk, let them see a role model do what what they
preaching.
Yeah, let them see what ought to be done beyond the words. And when they do that, they would have a change of mind.
Okay, so let's bring this down to the children. How do you discipline a child that is going wayward?
Well, it depends on the stage a child is.
Okay.
Unfortunately, in this is it era or in this aspect of life, we are not prepared for the next phase. We have abdicated responsibility of bringing up a child to the school. to the church, to maybe the larger society. But the parent as an individual are not sitting down to learn, read, study, and parent their own children. So it's just normal that after a while the child will form his or her own opinion, especially if it doesn't like the way it doesn't like the face of the father or the mother, and start living his or her own life the way he wants it. Clash of mindset. So the father or the mother needs to sit down first of all and check him or herself, because sometimes even when the child is misbehaving, it's because the father and the mother have also missed it somewhere. So before you correct a child,
so are you saying that every child that misbehaves is reflecting
a greater part of it reflects?
Because we've seen clerics, pastors whose children eventually go wayward.
Yes, please don't crucify them. The fact that they are clerics does not mean they won't make mistakes. They are also human beings. So I mean, it doesn't mean that because they are clerics.
It's possible those children still pick to those things.
Yes, it's possible. For example, the set you're talking about, which applies to whether you're even a CEO or you're a workaholic. If you're a workaholic, for example, or you are very busy, you don't give your children attention, they would find their attention elsewhere. And when their mind are fully formed, and that's when you now have their attention, they will rebel.
Too late.
It's too late, because they formed their own way of life. They are deciding the way they want to go, and it's possible that your own opinion is now opposite of what they want. There's going to be a rebel. It's normal. So you need to give adequate attention to your children from when they were given birth to. You need to, both father and mother, let's forget the idea that is the mother. The mother has the role to play, the father has a role to play. So let everybody play their role adequately.
Okay, so back to the discipline question now. Do you believe in corporal punishment, or how do you?
There are phases where that is applicable, and there are phases where that is not applicable.
Okay.
When they are still, we say, when a fish is dry, if you bend it, it breaks. So while it is still wet, you can bend it. So while they are still in their formative stage, you can correct them with cane. You can correct them with what you believe in.
So you believe in using cane on a child?
Yes, not excessively. Not excessively. There's nothing wrong with that if we don't overthink it. But when we overthink it and bring in the Western side effect of it, yes, then you might want to disabuse it. But if it's done in moderation, there's nothing wrong with that.
What is the moderate way to do it?
Well,
because some people will tell you that you should use the carrot and stick approach, like tell the child, if you don't do your assignment, you won't go out to play, or if you don't do your assignment, you won't get to play your video game and all that. Some people would say that approach is better than you using the cane on the child.
What I believe is that there are different punishment for different phases of life.
Okay.
For example, for somebody who that doesn't mean much to, like you've mentioned,
you use something that means much to the person.
Yes, but at 1 year old or at 6 months old, what means so much to the child?
Can a 6-month-old child go wrong?
Hey, okay, wait till they bite you. Wait till they intentionally take stick and bang the other child. Then the point is that our nature itself has a tendency to go wrong. It's when we bring in the issue of faith.
So at 6 months, what do you do?
I mean, there's what you call spanking, not excessive spanking, and not like mean spanking. Just even in the hospital, when they want to make a child cry, they tap the feet. What's that? That's discipline now. That's tearing him up. Yes. So let's not overthink the idea of discipline. It's the reason why people also tend to overthink, because they also parents that overdo it.
Yes.
I remember when I was in primary school, and a group of us we committed an error, and then some of us got away with it. There were some kids that when they got back, blisters everywhere, because the father dealt with the guy seriously. And it's probably also because over time the father too has disconnected from the child, because there's a point where you beat the child to that it's no more a correction, and the child is already mentally prepared for it. I remember when I was in secondary school and I was beaten, I just stood, I collected the cane, and I walked away, and I just walked away, and it made no sense to me. So there are discipline for every kid, for every stage of life. Even when you get to the adult stage, there are disciplines. At that point, you can't take in and beat somebody, but you do other things to punish the person, if it's in the workplace or wherever. Some people, they don't want to be scolded by words. That's another measure.
So how do you decide or know which is applicable?
If you're not in a system, if you're not in a controlled environment, if you're at home, for example, and it's your children, you should study your children. You should know what is important to your child. You can't you shouldn't use the same yardstick for all of your kids. So you know what, for example, and then let there be rules. It's when there are no rules that they will consider you to be wicked. For example, if bedtime is 9 p.m. and they are exceeding the bedtime, they already know they're in the wrong. So if you punish them, they won't take it as wickedness. But if you just wake up, they don't even understand how you are reasoning. Like this girl will do, Tao, like you just slap. They don't even know why you are slapping them. You are just slapping them.
As a hobby.
My wife told me of somebody who beat the child in advance. Yes. They wake up this morning, she already knows this child is going to commit sin. So for the sin yet to be committed, he has beaten the child.
Like in real life?
Yes, not fiction, real life.
Okay, let's open the phone line. 0815192595, 0812102446 are the numbers to call. You can also send your text messages to 090522133356. We're talking about parenting. That's the role of good parenting and the society. And you can also send us your tweet at IBR95FM Ibadan with the hashtag Real Talk. I still have Peter Mo here. So you talked about some parents not having enough time for their children earlier.
Yes.
How do you create that balance between your work life and your role as a parent?
Well, the first thing is you have to rearrange your priorities. The area we are in is the area where you don't even know what ethics, values are anymore.
Okay, let's take this call. Sorry. Good morning. Good morning. Hello.
Good morning.
Please tell us your name and location.
I am Primate Shitu.
Okay.
Interestingly, I am calling from Ijebu-Igbo. I want to beg to disagree with the guest on the program. I think from my own experience at about a year out of 80 years of existence on earth, I believe it is the mother who carries the larger share of family upgrading. Because the mother is the first teacher to any child. The husband is the principal. The principal in schools only monitor. It is the teachers that does the job. From infant, she's the one that must give out what she has. That means a woman, like the woman beside you there, must have 5 basic education. That is moral education, cultural and traditional education, social education, religious education, and Western education. Now, where we have problem today is that these educations are missing. In those days, when your mother crunches his throat, you know what she's saying. That is body language. But it is lost today. Now, the issue of religion. Religion has disappointed all of us because we don't have transformational men of God. They are so scarce. So when it comes to this Western education, that is where we have the big problem, my dear sister. You see, when we were growing, we have 2 types of education. The informal and the transformational education. But today, you have only the informal education being teaching at what level. And that is why people become job seekers instead of becoming job creators. I want to hang it here. Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Thank you, Primate Shitu. Okay, so I'd like you to react to what Primate Shitu said before we go back to the question you were answering.
What you said...
That is the role of the mother.
Is the role of mother. Well, I put it this way because I also didn't drop from heaven. I didn't drop from heaven. I know from the sky. I was brought up by my father, my mother. And what he said is under what I grew up in. Now, that worked to a great extent in the past. And what I should ask is,
Sorry, let me take this call. Good morning.
Good morning, sister and brother.
Good morning, Alaji Tindalayola.
It's quite sad that in African society, we give almost every responsibility to the mother. It shouldn't be. Both of them have the responsibility, but for most times, it is the father that should bear the brunt of majority of the problems at home. You see, nobody will ask the mother whether you have built a house or not, or whether you have a car or not. It is the status of the father that the mother picks. Whether you are a president, then if your wife is an ordinary housekeeper, she picks your status. That is what it is. So the father has more responsibility than the mother. But you see, because we feel the superiority, and because of maybe education today, that's where you have broken homes. The mother will want to slot it out with the father that because she's educated, then she has the same. So I think Africa should go back. We should go back to the original setting of the African and ensure that we play our role. You know, the family is the first unit of business, and socialization process starts from the family. So both of them should show good examples, role models to the children. Thank you. God bless you. God bless you.
All right. Thank you very much. I like the debate brewing.
Yeah, I think the first caller and second caller, I think they've clarified some things on their own. But for the first caller,
but they are speaking from two different perspectives.
For the first caller who said who described
the role of the mother.
Yeah. Let me ask the question this way, which is in that book, is how did we come to that point? Did we read that in the book?
The point of saying that the mother is the sole responsibility.
How did
of the
we
mother.
come to that point? It all started in the industrial age, where men, fathers, uncles
were the
breadwinners, and they were the breadwinners because of the work that was available then, which was in the factory. Many men then will go to the factory, work till evening, while the mother and the children are at home.
Okay, another call. Good morning. Good morning. All right, please call us back.
Okay. While, the father comes back in the evening, the grandfather or uncle, everybody comes back in the evening, as in the male gender, will come back in the evening, and then the wife caters to them, and everything, and then they go to sleep and everything.
As a housewife.
As an housewife. And basically because the work available then was for men, because it was more in the factory because of the age we were in. And that is what has modified the society, has taken form of it, has improved on it, has added to it, and sideline parenting to an aspect, mother-child, and I've left out the father, leaving the father to just be a financial provider.
But as it is now, both parents are out there.
And that means that model then is no more effective now.
No longer valid.
Then it was effective. That's why I said, the era is coming from under which I grew up, worked then. But now, that's not the case.
We've evolved. Okay, let's take this commercial break. We'll be right back.
Uncle Dentist, wetin be cavities and how Colgate take dey protect my teeth from cavities? Shey dey use comfort?
No dear, na hole for teeth dey cause most tooth pain wey be cavity. But if you use Colgate Maximum Cavity Protection take brush every day, the confirmed formula go help keep natural calcium inside our teeth wey go protect them from tooth decay.
Time don reach to upgrade to the world's most chosen toothpaste, Colgate, because Colgate locks calcium in.
Keeps cavities out!
Now the Nigerian Dental Association, they recommend Colgate.
Welcome back. It's still Real Talk on Impact Business Radio, IBR 92.5 FM. I have Peter Amo, who you hear is an author of How to Become a Better Father. And we're talking about the role of parenting and the society. Okay, so let's talk about, you were describing or explaining how to balance work life and your role as a parent.
Yes. There's what you call quality time. And based on the way our work schedules are today, where in some cases the parents have to work in 2 different locations, it doesn't give enough time for both parents to be at home at all the time. And even in some cases where both parents are in the same location, because of the different time of close of work, time of the student, and as the children as students, it doesn't also give time. For I remember them when I was much younger. We know by 7 p.m. our parents are at home, and together we are watching TV. And when it's 9 p.m., we know it's network news. So and that was the pattern for a long time until things started changing. So that quality time, there was room for quality time. I also remember them that when there's no light, we would gather together. He would tell us fables, which some of them I still remember, and we were able to learn 1 or 2 things from it. But that has changed now. With the way work is now, that has changed. With the way technology has crept into our life, that has changed. So to create a work balance, it means that first of all, your priorities, you have to clearly define what your priorities are. And family has to come first, even though you are working because of the family. But your family, your home has to come first. Even in your home, your wife has to come first
before your children.
Yes. It has to be.
What about for the wife?
It's the same. The husband comes first. Yes. It's the children after, because without either of them, the children doesn't exist. So you have that.
But this thing that mothers are usually more concerned about the children.
Yes, because going by what Prime Shitu said, it has to be like that. You have abdicated a lot of responsibility to them. So it's okay for them if in the future, they are the one that the children call to come and take care of their grandchildren. It's okay, because
and then they put more care and attention on the mothers.
Yes, because you left that space. You are assuming because they gave birth to them, they will give them breast milk, they will change their pampers. Who says you cannot be there? Who says you cannot babysit once in a while? Who says you can't change the pampers? No, what I meant is that based on the work schedule. Who says you can't change the pampers? Who says you can't rock the child? Who says you can't bond with your own child even while they are that age? Do you understand? But
I've even seen fathers who strap their babies in the back or front, whatever.
So who says you can't do that? Where do we learn all these things from? But because we are not given to learning on parenting, we are assuming it comes with our chromosome. We do it as we have seen it done. Okay. And the Yoruba says that
hello, good morning.
Hello.
Please tell us your name and location.
Please, I beg with all pardon. I am still Primate Shitu. I am sorry to disturb the discourse. I am forced to be back. I want to recontest because the guest is asking, how did the woman get that education? We are not talking about who built the house, who buy the car. Look, my dear sister, we are talking about bringing a child that is fantastic. You don't look at when the child has already arrived. You are looking it from the womb. Is it me, the husband, that carried the pregnancy? If I don't have 5 basic education, won't I kill that child in the womb? Won't I born a child that is one eye? Won't I born a child that is lame? Then when the child comes out, the first basic education on how not to be greedy is from the woman's finger and from the nipples of her breast. She gives to the child. And look at the child's face. Control the child how to sleep, how to do things. The father has nothing there than to be supportive. We are not saying the father is useless, but we are telling you here that the mother carries the first basic education that will produce a fantastic child while the father is supportive. Thank you for understanding.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so
well, let me say something that as a father you can do when your child is in the womb. You can speak to your child. You can declare on your child. A senior person once called me and said, look, I didn't have the opportunity to do this, but let me tell you, when you wake up in the morning or anytime when you are free, put your hand on your wife's womb and speak to the child, sing to the child, so that he can hear or be used to your voice. And because
so they can hear right from the womb.
Because they can actually hear. That's why when you bang the door, you see there's a kick in the. You can ask a pregnant woman when you bang the door, you see the kick in the mother's womb. When if it's at that stage, because they are responding to the environment. When there's an argument at home, the child feels it, even though it's in the womb. So there's a lot you can do as a father.
But what we are even majorly focusing on is after the child comes out of the womb.
Comes. So as much as there's a lot of truth in what you have said. There's a balance to it. Like I said, back then, that's true. But now, if you want more songs to be sung for fathers, if you want
more Father's Day,
if you want more Father's Day, if you want, when it's time for Omogbo for you to be called, or for you to find it rewarding to even go with your wife to take care of, then you need to invest from a tender age into the life of your child as a father.
Okay, message here from Osita from Okeado says, good morning, I'm enjoying your program. My contribution is this: parenting in the Western world today is focused on the lifestyle and the way the parents are being trained. So if a parent fails in bringing up their child, it is their fault as a parent. You can't give what you don't have, and you have to lay a good example as a foundation for the child to grow. Osita from Okeado, thank you so much. Okay, now let's look at different you already mentioned the different parenting styles, but what happens when the father has a different parenting style from the mother? We've seen cases where the father or the mother is chastising the child, and then the father is saying, stop it, so yeah, come, petting the child that is being chastised by the mother.
But it also means that there's a disconnect between the father and the mother, because you see, if you have a small child who is able to spot the difference in discipline of the father and the mother, he can always cause a war. He or she can cause a war, and because that's a crack,
that's the child.
Yeah, the child can cause a war because there's a crack already in that aspect. So it means there's a disconnect between the father and the mother, and both of them need to agree on when we are disciplining the child. This is our stand. Later we can come back together and whatever, but right in the heat of it at that time, we take the stand together. You may not like it, I may not like it. It may be the other way, another time, but we stand by our decision. Then subsequently or after, we can come back to say, look, it's not that we hate you, it's not that we dislike you, but what you did wasn't good, and that was why we did that. We love you, daddy loves you, mommy loves you, and then you and you move on. But if that scenario you're painting is the order of the day, then there's a disconnect, and that means that either the mother or the father is placing the child before the spouse.
Why do we have so much absenteeism in the part of fatherhood? Okay, especially in our society.
Going by the industrial age, going by where we are coming from, where the father just goes to work and then the mother stays at home, and failing to realize that has changed, and man still wants to continue that model while the woman is crying for equality and fairness and everything. There's bound to be things like that in variation. There's bound to be things like that. We've
seen cases where the father just elopes. Maybe the mother gave birth to triplets. The mother can't run away.
That one is obvious. It's financial.
That one but should you leave?
No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't leave. You shouldn't leave. You shouldn't leave. But he just made the wrong decision in eloping or in running away and leaving the children and the wife.
So we were talking about other things that cause the absenteeism that we see.
Yes. Okay. So back to the work-life balance. So if it's 1 hour in a week, you have the time with your children. Spend that time quality. Make it quality. I said this somewhere, that create memories with your children, so that when you are away, you can lavish that memories. You can, even the children can replay it in their head and have an idea of, this is who my father is. This is the time we spent together. Because when you ask a child, to describe the father, it's going to describe based on the time they've spent together. It's going to describe based on the investment the father, which is true time, has made into his or her life. So the time you spend together, if it's 1 hour, which is not the best, but whatever the time, make it quality. Then when you're away, do you have the technology? Since we cannot do away with technology now, it has become part and parcel of our life. Then we will leverage on technology. Let them hear your voice. Let them even know your routine. Let them even know why you are absent. Not that it's just work. Okay, work. Okay, what do you even do? For example, how does work take you away from home? Why is it taking you away from home? What's your schedule? When will you be back at home?
So what would a father who maybe is in the military and has to go to the battlefront, consistently, what does he do to keep that relationship?
Yeah, that's a very tight schedule. But while he's at home, usually they will have break time. Yeah. So while he's at home, he should make the most of that time, so that when he's away, you understand, they will know exactly, if my dad was around, this is what he would have done, this is what he would have said. They can reason. And if we want to go by technology, he's going to have a phone, but not at the war front, back in the barrack. They can always communicate. It could be late at night, it could be in the evening, but they can communicate. And when you talk about having time for your children, is more of it is about communication. So whether you're communicating by phone, whether you're communicating by email, whether you're communicating physically, the point is that let there be a quality communication between the children. So if you spend the time you have with them well, you can always leverage on technology to sustain it, and when you are back again, you can refuel it and you can continue like that. The point is that you need to sit down, if you know your schedule, to design how you want to have time for your children.
Okay, 0815192595 and 0812102486 are the numbers to call. You can send in your text messages to 090522133356. On Twitter, it is at IBR925FM with the hashtag Real Talk. Do well to drop your comments there. Okay, now let's talk about the best. What would you say is the best style of parenting?
Well, there isn't a best style of parenting. One is just better than the other.
Okay.
Yeah, and it also still stems from the exposure, the personality. For example, a disciplinary, will have, usually they would have a child who turns out largely well in some cases.
Really?
Yeah, in some cases. But there's a downside to the extreme tendency of being disciplined. For example, they may not be sensitive in some areas where you expect because of the way they've been brought up. They may be able to decide on their own because their father or mother have been very tough on them and have forced them to be able to reason on their feet. They may be able to survive on their own because it's part of what they're. They may also be even doing well in some area, maybe at work or in school. But when it comes to the emotional intelligence aspect, they're going to fall short a lot because that aspect of them is not there.
So which do you suggest?
So what I suggest is a mixture of all the good styles, all the styles that are available, the good part of all of them. For example, there are times you need to discipline. You take that part of it, not excessive, not overboard, moderate. You take that part of it. There's a part of being a friend of your children. You take that part of it. You form your own, because there's also not one size fits all for parenting. So if you take, and then based on your children too, you cannot also use one size to parent all your children. For example,
so you use different styles for each child.
Yes.
Wow.
Otherwise, there's going to be favoritism because one will perform better based on that style than the other, and there's also going to be fallback because one, based on the fact that he's not doing well on that style, he's going to feel left out. He's going to feel other emotional setbacks going to set in. He might not even do well in school.
I was going to come to that issue of favoritism. How do you manage it?
Well, you don't show it.
Okay, let's take this call. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Good morning.
Good morning once again, my brother, sister. I'm happy to do that.
Okay, go ahead, please.
You are talking of the best parenting. We cannot say exactly how you bring up a child to the best form. But I want to say that believing that with God, all things are possible. You bring a child up in the fear of God, I think that child will be better off. Then understanding the character of each child, because they don't have the same character. So when you understand, you study a child, and you know what he or she takes, the character is built up, the features he or she has. Then you look at the mood, how a child relates to you as a parent. You'll be able to at least get a lot of things to make up a better child. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alaji, today, Olaiwola. So, is it possible for you not to, or for a parent not to have a favorite child?
Well, it's based on the human tendency. it might be very difficult for you not to have a favorite child. But if you've brought up every one of them very well and you've given them enough love, do you understand? If, for example, there's the myth or the ideology that the last born gets more of the love. If everybody has enough love, even if you give the last born love, nobody will
notice or
bother, because they are all filled with love. They know their father loves them, and they know, okay, fine. I mean, we let you be. We are forming elder brother, elder sister for you, so no problem. Enjoy it, But they also know their parents, equally loves them as well.
So is it possible to not have a favorite child?
It's difficult. I'll use that word. It's difficult because
should you have?
You shouldn't have because of the detrimental side of it. And like I said before, you called you, since you understand each one of them, you give them as it is, as it suits their character, the attention. For example, me, I don't like sports. So I can't sit down with you and be watching sports. You understand? It's not going to make
most men love
it's not going to make much sense to me. But my younger ones can watch sport from morning till night. So if, for example, my dad sits down with them and they are all watching ball and they are all shouting, it's going to mean a lot to them. But to me, I just look at them like, what are they doing? It doesn't mean I didn't play ball. I did. You understand? But so as it suits their character, their personalities, you give them love, you give them attention, and you also discipline them when they need to be disciplined. Okay,
so at what age should a child have a telephone?
Well, there are a lot of things. It's best decided by the parents. There's no one size fits of the age, because in this era, even like I said to a mother, that the age your daughter is, she's smarter, she knows much more, than when we were at that age. So even if you hold back the phone, it doesn't mean that what they will do on the phone they won't do behind you. So holding back the phone is not like a major issue. You understand? But it's dependent on the parent, on the maturity of the child, what they want to achieve by holding back and determining when they want to give him the phone. All that it's in the hand of the parent to decide that and to know when. There's no one size. You can't say, okay, when you get to 18. What about when he gets to age 18 and she's not making the most of it, which we were trying to, prepare her for. She refused to be prepared for it. She refused to ignore the warning signs. She falls for online bullying. She falls for scam and the rest of it. That means that you're holding her back to that age has not achieved much.
Is it possible to totally censor all those things from a child, the online bullying, visiting porn hubs and all those things?
It is possible to a great extent. But because these things also keep evolving and changing, the styles keep changing, and they come in styles that
cartoons already have soft porn.
Yes, even aside cartoon having soft porn, when the normal cartoons or some cartoons, when you watch it and you see how your child is behaving, when they are jumping from chair to chair because of what they have watched, is the cartoon. So that cartoon has had a great impact on their life. So can you censor that? If you accept to sit down with them to know the impact of this or that. For example, someone said, I don't allow my children to watch Tom and Jerry, because it gives them the definition that children being a child is mischievous. So you see them jumping up and down, but it's because the person has sat down. Probably the person has sat down to watch Tom and Jerry with them, or she even watched it when she was much younger. I did when I was I watched Ant-Man and the rest of them like that. So so she just made her mind, but it means she was intentional about it. So you have the normal rules of blocking everything that is that is inappropriate, but there are still some things that look appropriate but are not appropriate for the stage your child is in. So except you sit down with your child to even watch the TV together, go through everything together.
I remember there was a particular friend whose son never slept at night, so she would just leave him watching the cartoon all through the night. Is that healthy?
No, it's not healthy. It's not healthy.
So what do you do in that kind of situation? The boy is not sleeping and you need to sleep.
Why is he not sleeping? You should ask questions. You should ask him questions. You should ask people who have gone ahead of you questions. Is it a mental thing? Is it an health issue thing? Or is it that he slept all through the day and refused to sleep at night?
Is that healthy?
It's not healthy. That means you have to change the narrative for him. If he's going to sleep during the day, you wake him up. You engage him during the day so that he can sleep at night, because normal human being ought to sleep at night. But the hours is a different argument entirely. But you ought to sleep at night. So if you're sleeping, it's just like month-old babies. They would sleep
most part of the day.
Yeah, and then be awake at night. We understand that. But when someone is probably a teenager or is in the teens and then is doing what he should have left behind, then that means there's something wrong somewhere, and that's what you need to find out by asking questions and resolve, and then move on. You don't just give into, like you say, sometimes I discuss with parents and then they say, and that's the way he wants it. He doesn't want to sit at the back, he wants to sit in the front. I'm like, but you are the parents. You should know that sitting in the front in the car is not best for your child, because if you brake suddenly, he can hit the dashboard, can hit the windshield. So put him out. But I say, no, you don't.
So sometimes because they don't want the child to cry,
who says crying?
Crying can be good sometimes.
Crying can be good sometimes. Even though it's hard for you to ignore. Especially if you're a caring parent, it's hard for you to ignore. But if you know it's for the good of the child, you may sometimes have to ignore, and you may sometimes they don't also have to always have what they want. They don't always, because everything
they don't
want,
know best.
Yeah, not everything they want is good for them.
Okay, what would be your final thoughts on this issue of parenting and the society?
Well, Joma just said everything rises and falls on leadership, and that means that if we are going to have a better society, the home needs to be better, and that starts with the father. He has to play more roles. He has to play the role beyond putting money on the table or working or making his meaning to just be about money. It has to be beyond that. And going further, then the wife will take from where she does, and then the child can be better. They also should live by example. You can't tell your child to do this and you are doing otherwise. They are smart. They will creep up on you. They will find out that you are doing.
It's said that children learn more by what they see than what you tell them.
It's not even just children. Even adults. We learn more by what we see, because we see a lot. We watch a lot. We hear a lot. Action speaks
louder than words.
So generally we learn more. That's why you have the likes of YouTube and rest of them, and they are all visual. They are mostly visual. So
all right, thank you so much, Peter Abo, author How to Become a Better Father. I have really learned a lot today, and I hope that our listeners have too. Thank you so much for coming on board.
Thank you very much.
All right, my name is Omobolanle Adesuyi. This is where we hang it today. We'll be back next week with another real issue affecting real people. Stay tuned to Impact Business Radio, IBR 92.5 FM. Good morning.